welcome to Information Please, your Peoria Public Library on the air, bringing you information about the community and the library. I'm Roberta Koszalski, sitting in for your usual host, Tricia Nowak, and I have with me a familiar face, Connie Voss, who is the Executive Director of Commonplace, as well as co-chair with me of Peoria Reads. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Roberta.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's always good to be here.
Yeah, it seems like it was just yesterday we were here doing this, but it wasn't. We're here today to talk about Peoria Reads 2015.
Right.
And for people who may not remember what Peoria Reads is, or heaven forbid, never heard of it, can you tell us a little bit about Peoria Reads?
Sure, I will be happy to. And if you haven't heard of it, start listening. This is actually our 13th year, which is hard to believe. 13 years of our annual One City, One Book project. And what that means is that every year we choose one particular book and encourage the whole community to read it and get together and have discussions, and we have a month of activities around the book, and it's bringing people together around reading, to encourage reading, but also to encourage talking about topics significant to our community. Mm-hmm. We always choose something that is worthy of discussions.
Right. We're happy to say that there's a lot of book discussions around the community, some held at the library, some held, privately at people's homes or businesses. But this
Right.
is one that, we encourage people young and old to read the book and think about the issues involved and hopefully talk with others about them.
Yes, and as I said, 13 years. We've done that with many books, and some people look forward to it every year and are waiting to hear, what is this year's book?
Yes. So, what is this year's book, 2015?
This year's book is Enrique's Journey by Sonia Nazario. It's a nonfiction book, and then to quote something on the cover of the book, the story of a boy's dangerous odyssey to reunite with his mother.
Okay, it's an odyssey.
An odyssey. Well, maybe we won't go too far into the word odyssey, but yes.
Okay. Well, before we talk about the storyline of the book and what the book is about, why was this one selected? Who selects it, and how did this one win?
Well, Peoria Reads is a community project, and you mentioned that you and I have been co-chairs with the library and Commonplace being the lead partners. Mm-hmm. We also work together, though, with others from the community. It is a community choice, a community project. So the committee reviewed some books and had some titles recommended to us, and this was one that stood out. And one of the main reasons is the main topic in the book is immigration, and we felt that this was a very timely book for discussion. In addition to that, I was looking over our goals today, and a couple really stood out. In addition to just promoting reading and promoting discussion, things we consider in our goals are to broaden and deepen the reader's appreciation for books dealing with significant issues, and this book certainly fits that bill, as well as to achieve a better understanding of ourselves and our own humanity. Humanity is a word I think of a good deal when I think of this book, because we're talking about the human side of immigration when reading and discussing this book.
And when you mentioned one of the Peoria Reads goals of a significant issue, since before we selected the book, you can't listen to the news one day or read a newspaper, look for news online without seeing something related to immigration. And so people are talking about it anyway, and they are forming their opinions about it. And, it's important to read not only the news from your favorite news station, but read some other books. And this is a true life account, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. Immigration is certainly a hot topic that we hear in the national news all the time. And it also is while we might think of immigration in terms of states that along the border to Mexico, we're a very diverse community, and there are diverse communities all over the United States, so it's a very relevant topic to everyone.
And you don't know people's story until you hear it somehow. You know, there are all the people in our community, everybody has a story, and you don't realize that, you know, we have so many immigrants in our community from so many different places, and we should share each other's stories and learn more about our shared humanity.
Exactly.
Exactly what we're trying to do with Peoria Reads.
Exactly what we're trying to do, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the storyline of the book, or you know, what's it about besides immigration?
Sure. Well, it centers around a young boy, Enrique, who lives in Honduras. And when he was only 5 years old, his mother made the difficult choice to come to the United States. She had to leave her children behind, and she came to the United States, as many immigrants and many mothers do, because she could barely afford to feed her family in Honduras. It was a daily struggle for survival. She was worried about her children, and she heard the wonderful things about life in the United States and thought that she could come here and earn money so they could get on her feet, and she could either go back to Honduras or have her children join her. But it's not that simple. It doesn't tend to work out that way.
Although she does get to the United States.
Yes, she does. She comes to the United States, and her children always feel rather deserted, as the book says many children of parents who leave for the United States do. And Enrique, I believe at the age of 16, it's when he's a teenager, decides it's time for him to go to the United States. His mother had not come back as promised. She would keep in touch some, she would sometimes send money, but he wanted his mother.
Yeah, understandable. It was expected that she was going to be gone a shorter time, but then that time just grew and grew. And
yes, and in reading the book, it seems like that's kind of typical. Many of the, when parents leave their children to come to the United States, like Enrique's mother did, it's more often mothers than fathers, and the children are left behind and want to join their mothers. So Enrique decided to make the trip to join his mother. A large portion of the book is about his making that trip. Even after reading in detail, I just can't imagine anyone, and certainly a child, making this trip, and there are hundreds of thousands of children who do this.
because you're not getting a ticket for an airplane or a bus or a train. Well,
right. Well, not with a ticket.
I'd say yes.
Yes,
The train.
It's typical to travel by stealing a ride on the top of railroad cars. There are bandits. There are police who take advantage of them. They're robbed. They're beaten. Sometimes they're killed. Some fall off the trains and are injured or killed. It's a treacherous journey. He had to make 8 attempts before he finally made it to the border. And then at the border, he has to stay there a while before he can afford to pay. You have to pay people to make this illegal journey. And because it's illegal, they take advantage of people, and they can get away with it because the people trying to migrate to the United States are afraid of getting caught by the authorities and sent back home. And sometimes those authorities are rather underhanded as well, and take advantage of them too. It's an unbelievable journey.
Yeah, just the thought of, and that's the cover of both the hardback and the paperback editions, are kind of through the eyes of Enrique on the top of a railroad car, where you know, through the fog or the distance, you don't even see the front of the train. And to go through, you know, 24/7 on a train in any weather, avoiding low-hanging branches, that could severely injure you, staying on 24/7. You have to stay awake, or if you fall asleep, are you going to fall off the train and be, kind of sucked under by the motion of the train and have a limb cut off?
And then sometimes other people, whether it's the bandits or other people trying to migrate who want their spot or want their food or whatever, there are other people who try to interfere with that as well. To say they're a challenge is like a massive understatement.
Yeah. Yes. So it's not lighthearted. It's not an easy read. But why should people read the book, and why would someone be motivated and want to read the book?
Yeah, the should and the would, that's good wording, Roberta. It might not be for everybody. As you said, it's describing a tough journey. There are up moments in the book, and there are things about family and love and dedication and some good things there too, but there are some things that sometimes get a little tough to read. But that's true of many important topics, such as when we had books about the Holocaust. Or, they're still important to read and understand the subject matter.
It's part of Peoria Reads. To tackle tough topics and understand what other people go through or what happens in our community or in our world.
Right. And if somebody likes to read about adventure, this is a book of survival, and there certainly is a great deal of adventure in his travels. It's also a book of quality. It's an award-winning book that's read throughout the United States and beyond. It's frequently used for lessons in high schools and colleges. There is now a book for younger readers too, a version for younger readers, and middle schools use that too. So it's a very frequently used book for book discussions and in schools and in other respects.
And when you mentioned that it's a tough read, there is a young adult edition of this book that came out in the past year and a half, and it's it's not for anyone younger than middle school, definitely, but middle school through high school, and an adult would enjoy reading it as well. It just kind of condenses the information in a way, so you're still reading the whole story, but I don't know how it compares page-wise, but it's shorter and
it's a little shorter.
Yeah, so you still get the story.
Then, along with maybe a little more of that should part, I don't know. It's a human story of immigration. You can hear something on the news. The things on the news are usually about laws or about politics. Sometimes a bit of the human story, but even if you've heard the human story on the news, it just doesn't compare to reading this book, which is in great detail, going through what the immigrants go through, but also helps you understand why. Whether or not a person agrees, that's up to the reader to decide how they feel, but it gives a great deal of information and insight into why this happens and what happens to these people.
And we read other books on immigration too, as well as books on other topics when we were thinking about Peoria Reads 2015. And when I read the books, I think I always put myself in the place of the main character. And how could I survive this? What, the choices that are in front of me, what choice would I make? And could I survive? Usually the answer is no, because, just because, we're not subjected to trials like this, typically.
Right, and I think a reader might be reading it like, well, I know I certainly did. as it describes all this young boy, and he's very young, and there are even younger children around him sometimes, why they go through this. And reading the book, I think, has given me a better understanding of why these things come about. Some of it's very sad, but it helps to understand the circumstances and the situations that lead to this immigration and the immigration of young children.
How far a person will go and how strong they can be.
Right. But that said, Sonia Nazario relates this story and in great detail, and you feel for this young child and the situations people are in, but she doesn't try to give you all the answers. She raises the questions. And I even read a part towards the end where she says, we have to ask ourselves questions. Is immigration good for migrants themselves? Is it good for their home countries? Is it good for the United States and our citizens? All things to think about, and she gives us some information to help us think about those questions.
Now, she's an interesting author. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner. Not for this book, but sort of for a lead-up to the book. Do you have information on that?
Almost for this book, but not quite.
Yes.
Yes, she's a journalist, and she's a journalist who's been reporting for over 20 years, primarily writing about large social issues in the United States. She first wrote about Enrique's journey as a series of articles in the Los Angeles Times. And it was for that she won the Pulitzer Prize. And then later, it was expanded into the book that we're reading now. She's received many awards, and I think I read like a dozen or more, at least, awards just for Enrique's journey alone. And
I was reading, too, on her website that Enrique's journey is among the most chosen books as a freshman or common read. Common read meaning a community read or something that, as of a couple of years ago, 71 universities, 12 cities, and many high schools nationwide have used Enrique's journey. And in 2010, it was the second most likely book chosen by universities for their freshman read. So it is being read across the United States and discussed.
Right, which certainly speaks to the quality of the book and the interest in the subject matter. I noticed in a biography of her too that she is also involved in some organizations that help children, that help Latinos. So she doesn't only write about things; she walks the walk as well.
Well, I would think you couldn't write this and talk to this person, develop a relationship with him, and then not get involved in the plight of others like him.
Right, I would think so. And she also won, she's been named among the most influential Latinos by Hispanic Business Magazine, and there were some other similar kinds of awards and honors as well. So she's been very active.
So if people want to get copies of the book, this is a year that we don't have the giveaway copies like we have in certain other years. Some years Peoria Reads is able to provide copies to book clubs or classes or individuals to read. But this year, we're depending on other sources, like the collection at Peoria Public Library.
Peoria Public Library, of course.
Yes,
and then you can,
copies.
It's an easy to find book in any kind of retail source, online or local. Or
yes, my husband got me my copy for Christmas, a used copy, which reads just as well as a brand new copy for a nice low price. So it is readily available. I mean,
right.
Since it is being used as a common read in so many communities, there are plenty of used.
It is, as well as the
available.
younger readers version too. And I think you can get it on Kindle, and
It's an ebook.
It's very available.
Yes. And you mentioned a great book for discussion, which has to be one of the prerequisites in the books we select. So what kind of activities will be happening to get people to talk to each other about the book.
And that is still somewhat of a work in progress, but I know some things are the OLLI program at Bradley. I know you're going to be involved in that a little bit.
Yes. OLLI is...
I'll let you explain some of that.
OLLI, which is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Bradley, always supports Peoria Reads and encourages us to do programs to help their members get involved in the program. And so let's see, in February and March, Carol May, who I think when I say the name Carol May, and if you're an OLLI member or a reader, an intellectual in our community perhaps, and Carol, if she's watching this, is probably groaning right now. But if a program says Carol May is involved, it's going to be an excellent program. And I was very fortunate to be asked by her to work together on a program about the human side of immigration that will be presented at OLLI for 6 weeks from the end of February through the end of March, mid-February through the end of March. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history of immigration, and then have the last 4 weeks, each week we'll have an immigrant, a Peorian who has come from another country and is well established here in Peoria, to talk about his or her experiences leaving their country, coming to our country, the reception they received, and their overall experience. So we've got, I believe, if memory serves me right, perhaps someone from Korea, Mexico, and as we talk about other things, I will remember the 2 other countries perhaps.
Yes. Yes, and we'll always have book discussions throughout the community, and yes. I know the library is planning a film showing at the North Library of the Visitor.
And that will be moderated by Carol May.
May.
That's the Visitor at the North Branch in mid-April on a Thursday, and then we're hoping to have that kind of be the stepping off point for a few other films, either feature films, perhaps a documentary or 2 thrown in, and we are at this point looking for some moderators. Not anyone who will do a whole program on the film, but perhaps introduce the film for 10 minutes and then just get people in the audience to discuss a little bit about the film afterwards for 20 minutes or half an hour or so, just so you don't just watch the film and then go home, talk about it with the people who viewed it with you and,
right.
and get their feelings. And let's see, well, another OLLI program I'm doing with one of the Commonplace. He's director of adult programs at Commonplace. His name is Wayne Cannon, and he and I will be leading a discussion series at OLLI in April for 4 weeks. So we're kind of chopping the book into 3 parts and discussing each of the parts, and then the last discussion segment will be a more overall overview of immigration as it is right then at the end of April, any timely topics in immigration that come up. The people will have some reading to do ahead of that, and we'll have a nice open discussion.
Right.
And so we're still in the midst, of course, of planning programs. We've just announced the book at City Council as our step, our introduction to Peoria Reads 2015. So we're still in the planning process.
And you know, Roberta, something else very relevant to mention about the whole process of this book coming about is how Sonia Nazario decided to write this book. She was talking casually with her housekeeper one day, or a cleaning woman who did cleaning for her, and found out that this woman had left her home country of Guatemala and had 4 children still back there, and they had been separated for 12 years at that point. Well, this was before Sonia Nazario knew much about the immigration topic, and she was just astounded to find out about these 4 children that she never knew existed, and that they could have been separated all that time. And that started her on a quest to find out more about it, that included finding Enrique and deciding to use his story as a vehicle to talk about immigration, and went to the extent to travel and meet people that he had met and ride on train tops herself, in danger just as some of the immigrants were, making that journey. And she has, I mentioned walk the walk a little bit earlier. Well, she really walked the walk in writing this book and investigating the whole topic and finding those human elements to this journey that people take.
So she put her heart and kind of her life in this book.
Yes.
And so it's definitely worth reading. Enrique's Journey website does have a lot of information for people. We will be posting discussion questions on our Peoria Reads website, which you can get to, of course, through our Peoria Public Library website, which is peoriapubliclibrary.org. And we'll have discussion questions, information about when programs and discussions will occur. If anyone has their own book club, and book clubs are already reading the book, they can call the library for discussion questions or any other information that we can provide them for their book club. Anything else that you wanted to add about Enrique's Journey by Sonia Nazario?
Well, it really is a book worth reading. It's a book you'll never forget if you decide to read this book. You'll feel like you've been on Enrique's journey. Something very foreign to all of us listening, most likely. It's really worth discovering that experience and having this kind of background about what both adults and children go through when they try to come to this country because it is a way of survival for them.
Okay. Well, thank you, Connie. Thank you for sharing all of this information with us about Peoria Reads 2015. Remember to look at peoriapubliclibrary.org for information on materials, services, and programs offered by Peoria Public Library. Thank you for watching Information Please, your Peoria Public Library on the Air. Good night.